You are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Everything you guys said, of course, is I think pretty blatantly accurate for everybody. And the word innovation is thrown around a lot for defense acquisition and systems development. And I don't think we really have an innovation problem. Private companies innovate. We have all these fusion labs within the military that innovate actually pretty well. The challenge is adopting the innovation on a programmatic level and then fielding it quickly. And I think, Hondo, when you and I were in together, I served as a SEAL team leader, and we'd have IED threats that the enemy would watch with binoculars how we would disarm an IED or what technology we'd use. And the next day they would change their design, literally the next day. I mean, they'd go back to their garage, they'd rewire it, and they'd come out the next day. And our policies for fielding equipment to counter those IEDs were stuck at the pace of our defense acquisition system. We'd send that feedback back home, and maybe a year or two later, we'd get a new jammer or a new tactic out, and God bless the guys out there doing it, which is me a lot of the time. Unfortunately, our ability to innovate, we didn't innovate at the speed of the threat, we innovated at the speed of bureaucracy. And we can innovate, but adopting that quickly is the biggest challenge. So, it's open to anybody, especially you, Hondo, coming from a career in that acquisition system. What's the single biggest change we can make as a legislative body quickly to encourage adoption of the innovation that already exists?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. I concur. Many of our roadblocks are self-inflicted and culturally reinforced. And it's for a lot of different reasons. I think number one thing you can do is that you can empower the program manager and hold them accountable. Right now, program managers answer to dozens and dozens of folks. They have to go get permission to move a dollar to a better priority. If they see a new technology that comes out, they have to spend years creating a program to adopt that technology. I think that's one. And then two, breaking down this barrier so that, listen, we need defense primes, as Sham said. We need new entrants. We need commercial providers. We need program managers that have the authority to actually have visibility of all those things, and then rapidly be able to choose the best performer. And then finally, we've got to break down the barrier that we've created between the person buying the equipment and the person using the equipment. Again, well-intentioned headquarters staffs that have accumulated over time, reviewing that reviewer to doer ratio. So get the doers doing, get them aligned with the operational needs, give them the flexibility to make the best decisions, and then hold them accountable to deliver.
And Mr. Sankar, a question for you. I love your write-up, by the way. I agree 100%. And when I got out, I actually started a defense company myself. We ended up having to split the company in two, largely for investment purposes, because what you referred to as that wall, which is very accurately portrayed. But in addition to the acquisition regulations and the DCA accounting requirements and all that, there's also a restriction of you can innovate something commercially, and to bring that innovation back in and have a cross-feed valve where the defense technology benefits from commercial innovation is almost not allowed. And therefore, we're missing out on a massive pool of knowledge, especially as we move into machine learning models and AI. We can't benefit from commercial. In your experience, how can the DoD better leverage commercial innovations to make sure that the defense innovation is adopted at the speed that private sector innovation is?
Well, thank you. I think Congress, in its wisdom, saw this in the 90s, right? This is why we have the Federal Acquisition Streamlining Act, which is that the commercial, you have a much broader market around which you can amortize your R&D in the commercial world, and you can bring that stuff at a lower risk and with much greater speed to the DoD. We were able to deliver the Operation Warp Speed supply chain in 2 weeks during Operation Warp Speed because actually 2 years before that, we had built very similar solution in oil and gas. You can't connect those dots prospectively. I didn't make that investment in oil and gas because I knew it would pay off when the nation needed it for COVID vaccine distribution. But really, if you're going after these hard problems, you can benefit whole of nation. At some point in time, every car, camera, and cereal box that Americans bought actually subsidized our national security. So I think I would attack this systematically by thinking about what are the barriers that have meant that we have developed a defense industrial base and lost our American industrial base. Now, I think the real issue here, to your point, we don't have an innovation problem. Innovation doesn't need capital. America's capital markets are the deepest and richest in the world. Dare I say, if you're unable to finance your idea, that probably tells you something about your idea in this country. But innovation does need customers. And so shortening that OODA loop, the fiscal OODA loop of how quickly, I think we'd be better off spending half the money twice as quickly. It's really time. Speed has a quality all of its own here, and that's how we drive up commercial adoption. It will pull these folks into the industrial base in a way that we really need. Yes, we need to cut the red tape. We need to get rid of some of these regulations, but I think the biggest barrier is encouraging adoption, empowering our people. So much of this, I couldn't agree more with Senator Reed's comments that technology it's not a technology problem. It's actually a people problem, a leadership problem. You can't chop off a lot of our regulations. Something goes wrong, we come up with a new rule. We're trying to chop off one end of the distribution of all the things that can go wrong. You can't do that without making sure nothing can go right either.
Thank you, Mr. Sankar.